You're listening to EduVoices, Champion Foster Futures, a podcast amplifying the voices of those transforming education for children in foster care. Each episode brings you real stories, research, and advocacy efforts to improve the lives of foster youth. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Now, let's dive in.
Welcome to EduVoices, Championing Foster Futures, a podcast dedicated to elevating conversations that matter for children, youth, families, and the systems that support them. I'm Dr. Stephanie Barbary.
And I'm Dr. Dusty Palmer. We're glad you're joining us for this episode, 3-part series recorded with the leaders from Texas CASA.
In this series, we explore foster care from multiple angles: leadership, family engagement, program support, and policy to better understand how advocacy and collaboration can strengthen outcomes for foster-connected youth.
Each episode stands on its own, but together they offer a broader look at the people, practices, and policies shaping support across Texas.
In this episode, we're joined by Brandi Goen, Grants Management Director at Texas CASA.
Brandi brings a unique perspective as both a former CASA volunteer and now a leader supporting programs across the state through strategic funding and grants management.
Her experience connects direct advocacy with system-level support in meaningful ways. So, Brandi, you began your journey as a CASA volunteer. Can you share what drew you to that role and how that experience shaped your perspective on foster care advocacy?
Yes. This really all began following behind my mom. She was an assistant DA advocating for children and families as an attorney for the state. I saw the way this work impacted her and the family she worked with and wanted to make an impact as well. I think there can be a stigma sometimes around attorneys that work for the state that they always side with the department, but my mom wasn't one of those. She always told me that children deserve to be with their families when safe and possible, and that just because someone may live differently than we would doesn't make them unfit. That's something that's always really stuck with me and shaped my perspective surrounding advocacy for the youth that are in care and, frankly, that are our most vulnerable population.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. From your time as a volunteer, what stands out most about the impact a CASA can have on a child's life?
I think I would circle back to the last part of my question before. We are there to advocate for these children's very best interest, making it so important that we are aware of our own and sometimes unconscious biases. If we can do that, we can really make a positive impact on the lives of children that we're serving. We are most of the time these children's only consistent throughout their time in care, and we have the privilege of getting to know them and their families with the hope we can advocate for them in a way that ends in reunification in some capacity. Maybe that looks like advocating for educational needs, medical needs of the children, and sometimes that may look like advocating for parental visits. I also really think it's important that we remember that we're the only unpaid person in that courtroom, and I always felt a huge sense of responsibility that came with that, but I also felt the gratification of the positive impact I was able to make.
Wow, yeah, that's very insightful. So how did your experience in direct advocacy influence your transition into this current role that you're in now as the Grants Management Director?
You know, I really knew early on that this is a space that I wanted to devote my life to. I just wasn't quite sure really in what capacity that would be. I thought about things like, what did I have going on in my life at the time and what are my skill sets? And I found myself at Texas CASA. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to work for such an amazing organization and with such a devoted and caring network of local CASA programs.
So for listeners unfamiliar with your work, can you explain how grant management at Texas CASA supports local CASA programs across the state?
Yes. So the Texas CASA Grants Department passes through state and federal funds as administrators for 74 local CASA programs. Each program receives one state and one federal award each year. This allows local program stability as it relates to funding, something they can count on each year, which allows them to continue operations and keeps them from having to wonder from year to year if they can keep their doors open.
So then what are some of the biggest challenges local CASA programs face that grant funding helps address?
Local programs face a lot of challenges. I think how I view Apartment's role is just to simply help take some of the financial burden off of them so that they can focus on what's most important, and that's serving children. When programs have stable funding, they're able to better serve their communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brandi, from your perspective, how does strong funding support translate into better outcomes for children and families?
I've seen firsthand as an advocate how these dollars we pass through impact children. One of the main categories our funding reimburses is staff salaries, specifically volunteer supervisors. Each CASA volunteer is assigned a supervisor at the start of the case that guides and supports them throughout their case. It is a crucial position, and I feel strongly that having well-trained and personable advocate supervisors have a huge impact on the volunteer experience, and then therefore the advocacy that the volunteer is able to provide while serving these children for the lifetime of their case, really.
So then how do insights from your experience as a former CASA volunteer influence the way you approach these funding decisions and program support?
My first thought is it doesn't. But that's really not true. I think in the same way I advocate for the children that I served, it's with best interest in mind, first and foremost, always. I'm constantly thinking to myself, does this meet the needs of the network? Does this translate into better outcomes for children? Does this provide stability? And is this in the best interest of all local CASA programs?
I think it's very important that what's in the best interest of the child to drive those decisions for grant funding. And I'm glad your background as a CASA and putting those best interests in place has transitioned into what you do as a grants management, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what might be some of the examples of how grant-funded initiatives have helped strengthen or expand CASA programs in meaningful ways?
Something that we're really excited that we're able to offer is we currently have a volunteer and staff direct travel grant. And those are dollars set outside of the formula awards that these programs receive. So they receive one state award, one federal award, but these dollars are completely set aside from that. These funds are there to help local programs reimburse their volunteers and staff for travel to visit children so that the funds don't have to come out of their operating budget from year to year. Now, these grants are something we're really proud to be able to offer, and ones I think have a large impact on local programs and their ability to provide the best advocacy possible for all children.
So as I was looking at the 2025 annual report, I was shocked to see this program, this agency. I mean, it's largely grant funded. And so of the $40.6 million that comes in, I think it was 40.3 is from grants or endowments or private donations. And just a small chunk of that is really from either membership dues or conference. So you have a big job in this agency. I mean, really all of that comes through your office.
Yes.
That's outstanding. Really something to be proud of.
I appreciate that.
And just knowing that money is going to best support these students who need it the most. I keep calling them students. They're really children, but I understand the nature of my job. So, I mean, what you're doing here is sincerely profound. And so thank you again for taking time out of your day to visit with us about this because, I think people see it as it's just money, it's just budget, that's not important. But no, that's really the drive behind the mission. That's how we get this work done. So thank you. Thank you for doing that.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for saying that. I really am proud of what the grants department is able to do for local CASA programs. And I'm really thankful for my time spent as a volunteer. And I really do believe that's made me better prepared for the role I'm in and really all the responsibilities that come with it.
If you're finding value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to EduVoices, championing foster futures on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode packed with powerful stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies for supporting children in foster care. Plus, it helps us continue growing this community of educators, advocates, and changemakers. Now let's get back to the conversation.
In our first session, we talked to Vicki and we asked, if you want to get involved with foster care, then how would you do that with Texas CASA or your local programs? But I'm thinking also too, if someone doesn't want to volunteer, doesn't feel it right now in their heart to be that volunteer, there's actually other ways. I mean, I've definitely contributed to CASA in other ways too. Can you walk us through the steps of how to become a volunteer? And is there any opportunities if I wanted to donate and just fund while I'm still processing to become a volunteer? What would that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go to our website, texascasa.org, and it's super, super user-friendly. Like at the top, you can find get in touch, volunteer, donate. Those will take you directly down to different links and talk you through the process. When you hit volunteer, it'll take you down to where it says, are you ready to volunteer? And from there, you'll want to contact your local program. So you'll put in the program county that you're interested serving in. And from there, there's a volunteer button, and it takes you straight to that program's website where you can start to fill out an interest form. And it walks you through submitting your application, how you'll attend pre-service training, complete those hours, be officially sworn in, get assigned to your first case, and then meet your CASA supervisor. And for those that, like you asked it, for those that aren't, they just don't feel like it's the time for them to volunteer. There's also ways either on Texas CASA's website or once you get to your local CASA program's website that's specific to your county, then there's ways to donate. And also you could contact them and see if maybe you have a certain skill set that might be a fit for them to be on their board of directors. One of the most important things I can say is, yes, of course, volunteer is wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. That said, if that's not something that you feel like you can commit to right now, your dollars and your time, either if that's as a donor or as a board member, are really important and do go a long way and are really needed.
It is really easy to use. As I was navigating the website myself, I was like, it really is user-friendly. Multiple ways to get where you need to go. Absolutely.
I know up in the Lubbock area, they are doing the playgrounds, and they're so unique. They make these houses, and they're at the local supermarkets out in the parking lot, and you can buy raffle tickets.
Yes.
And it's like a kid's dream to have one of these little toy houses, right? It's like, I want one of those.
Yes, they're beautiful.
And things like that is things that I think like we take for granted sometimes. We just think like, oh, like every child has a dollhouse or Barbies to play with or trucks to crash into each other. But the reality is that's not the reality for every child. And so I love that.
Yeah. And I'm also assuming, that anyone could contribute items, clothing, school supplies. School supplies is always a big need at the beginning of the year. So I assume that they could do that, take it to the local CASA offices and donate such items.
Absolutely. You just want to make sure that you just contact them and they'll you just ask them, what are your needs? How can I contribute? And they'll be able to tell you, oh, we need this. Christmas is a big thing. They always a big push for Christmas gifts. Because again, I think we think, oh, every child gets Christmas gifts. So that's not always the case. And so, like you said too, back to school is huge. Backpacks, there's simple things that I think we really take for granted.
I even think about like clothes, like toothbrushes, like necessities that even our own kids need every single day. You're right. Like we take that stuff for granted or think like that's already been taken care of.
Yep.
And really that might not be the case at all. And maybe even rest on the shoulders of the actual foster parents to provide all of that. And, some of them do and some of them maybe don't. So yeah, absolutely. Any resource is helpful.
Brandi, thank you for connecting the dots between the advocacy and systems support.
We hope this conversation highlighted how strategic investment strengthens outcomes for children and families. Until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for caring, and thank you for championing foster futures.
Thank you for joining us on EduVoices, Champion Foster Futures. We hope today's episode sparked new insights and deepened your commitment to supporting foster youth. For updates, bonus content, and upcoming sessions, follow us on our social media outlets or visit our podcast page. But until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep advocating.